today we are making herb chicken burgers. So we're starting with some caramelized onion. We're going to top the burgers off with caramelized onion, and they take kind of long to cook down because we'll make them super brown and they'll sweeten up. So I put a pan over some medium heat, and I'm going to add some coconut oil. So if you're eating paleo, coconut oil is a great oil substitution for vegetable oil. You can also use bacon, you could use some lard, and if you do dairy, you could even use some butter. So I'll just take about a tablespoon of coconut oil. And once this melts down, I have 2 yellow onions that I just thinly sliced, and I'll toss that into the pan. And I'll add just a little bit of salt and pepper and a little bit of water. So I have a smaller pan for the onions to cook down in so they can steam and become really soft and they won't burn on the pan. So if you have a smaller pan, cook a bunch of onions and that helps caramelize them a little more. So I'll add these onions in here. And here the pan is nice and hot. And then I'll add just a little salt. And just a dab of pepper. So as the onions begin to cook, use some tongs to kind of flip them around and so they don't burn at all at the bottom. You want the oil to kind of coat on all the onions. So I'll mix those around, and then we're going to start our burger. So the great thing about caramelizing onions is you can just put them in the pan and pretty much forget them. So I'll look at them a little bit, mix them around just so they don't burn, and you're good. Okay, so now we're gonna make our burgers. So today I have chicken, I have ground chicken. If you go to the store and you don't see ground chicken, you can ask your butcher to actually grind some up for you. So you can take chicken breasts or chicken thighs and ground that up. So I have a pound of ground chicken, and these are thighs, so a little darker meat. And I'm gonna add half an onion that I diced up thin, some parsley, about half a cup to a cup, however much you want, and about a cup of spinach. And I also have just 1 garlic clove that I just minced up, and I'll add all that in. So these burgers, it actually makes a ton because we have so many herbs and different spices that go into it that you'll make almost 5 burgers depending how big they go. So I'm just going to add this directly to my bowl. Here's the spinach. Parsley, if you're not a fan of parsley, you can also use cilantro or you could use basil as well. And I just roughly chopped it. And then my garlic and onion. So you can use a spoon, that's totally fine, but your hands will probably be the best tool. So I'm just going to mix this all together, just to start getting the spinach incorporated in a little bit more. And then I'm gonna add just some dried herbs that I have in my pantry. So I'll add a little bit of basil, I'm gonna add some dried thyme, then just a little salt and pepper and a little more garlic powder. I think garlic goes a long way, so I'll use garlic powder, I'll use minced garlic, granulated garlic in everything I use. You can really add as much as you want, add as little, and make it more to your taste buds. And then I have some garlic powder. I always overdo garlic powder, but it's good. And then a little bit of salt and pepper. So remember, chicken doesn't have a ton of flavor, so we are adding a lot to it to make sure your taste buds know what's going on. And a little pepper. So I'll mix that again. And we really want to mix it well because all those spices and herbs and everything you put at the top, want to make sure we get incorporated in all of it. So I'm going to make these into burgers. My onions are still cooking down, and now they've started to kind of wilt a little bit. So I'm going to add just a tablespoon of water, a shot glass of water, just to help steam it even more. So that water will start wilting them down and they'll begin to brown up even more. So let's make our burgers. So again, you can make these into sliders if you say you have like a Super Bowl party coming up or any sort of game. You can make those bigger, smaller, however you want. But the smaller you make them, the easier it'll be to cook them quicker. because there won't be as much meat in them and more herbs. So you can see these little patties are perfect, and they're packed with a ton of flavor that will go a long ways. So I'll make probably 5 or 6 of these and then put them on the pan. So my pan I have under medium heat, and I'll add a little bit of coconut oil just to coat the pan, and then I'll add these directly to the pan. They'll probably cook for about 3 to 4 minutes because these are smaller per side, and then I'll flip them. So it's easy. So make sure your pan's on medium heat. If we have too high, it'll burn the burgers, and then we'll have a little bit too crispy of a surface. These are looking fantastic. And if you're not a fan of ground chicken, you could use ground turkey, you could use ground beef, and for even more flavor, you could use like an Italian sausage or pork sausage. Any of those would do. So it's kind of whatever meat is on sale, that's usually the meat I go for. And this pan is a really big pan for the burgers, and that's perfect because we don't want to crowd the burgers because they'll just start to get steamed, and that just isn't as pretty, and we want our burgers to look good. Okay, so our pan is hot. I'm going to add probably a tablespoon of coconut oil. Again, you could use a different kind of fat, such as bacon fat or lard, whatever you may like the best. Coconut oil, I don't mind it, and I think it doesn't have a ton of flavor to it, and whatever you add makes the flavor more intense, so the garlic will kind of stand out more here. So I'll turn that pan down, and then I'm going to add these burgers. So you can see I'm making sure I'm not crowding them in there, so it has plenty of room to cook and get a nice texture on the outside of it. And our onions are still cooking down, so I'll add a couple sprinkles of salt to it just to bring out more of the flavor and the caramelization of the onions. And we're going to top these burgers. Once they're done, we'll top them off with caramelized onion, and then if you have some avocado on hand, you can slice that up, just add a little bit more flavor to your burgers, and then it feels more filling since we're not using a bun. So I'll usually make a salad on the bottom, burgers on top, caramelized onion on the very top. It's the best. So press these down just a little bit with your spatula. Since we're working with chicken here, we got to make sure that we cook the chicken through completely. So by pressing that down, it'll be more evenly through, just so we don't have any pink left in the middle once we're done cooking them. So these I'll probably flip a couple times just to make sure I don't burn the outside of any. So I'll flip it over, cook for a couple more minutes, then flip it back over just to make sure we completely cook through. So you can see the onions begin to get really soft, and we're looking for this brown coloring. So the browner they get, the more sweetness that comes out in the onion. So let's see, I think these are about time to flip. They look good. So you can see they have, as I flip them, they have a nice brown color to them, and they don't stick to the pan. So if yours is sticking to the pan, need it to cook a little longer. And say you didn't want to cook these on the stovetop and you're feeling a little lazier, if you just make these into balls, put them in the oven at 365 for probably about 20-25 minutes, you have meatballs for the night. So this is a great option that you can make different meals in a week. Even put it in the freezer, have meatballs later that week. It's looking beautiful, and it smells awesome. So here I'm flipping them again. making sure both sides are browning evenly, and we're not gonna burn the burgers at all. Our burgers are done cooking. If I poke them a little bit, they should push back at it. So that's how I know they're pretty much done, and we have a nice brown coating on them. And my onions, as you can see, look gorgeous. So they're really brown, super caramelized. And I put down a bed of greens, so I just have some spinach I put down. I'm gonna put the burger on top of the spinach. You could even use some dressing if you wanted to. The burger's gonna be there, and then I'll top it off with my caramelized onion. Again, if you want some avocado on top, that works really well and goes delicious with this meal. So I'll just put a little caramelized onion, and you have yourself a beautiful burger that's covered in caramelized onions. Thank you for joining me today.